as Mr. Sikka said, there is a nexus between drugs, between Pakistan, between opening that corridor. Why was that corridor to Guru Nanak's birthplace opened?
Right.
In the 80s, it was Pakistani sort of paying Sikh terrorists to go do the killings in Punjab. These days, the Sikh community or certain elements of the Sikh community, either through terrorization aided and abetted by Justin Trudeau and the Labour government in Canada, they are paying money to the ISI to do certain things and see to it that certain things happen, which kind of enable an environment where, another sort of...
Well, but what happens is,
separate
Abhijit Iyer
movement
Mitra,
is
like I
stuck
said,
up
in
again.
terms of the percentile, the opening of the Kartarpur corridor is landmark for crores of Sikhs or lakhs of Sikhs who've been wanting to go and pay darshan. So that's one point. But the presence of entities like Gopal Singh Chawla and others who are then seen around, and Rinda and some of the others who are also seen with members of the Akal Takht and others, that is a cause for concern. I agree, it's a security concern. Pattai Suresh Krishnamurthy, I have limited time. Yes, please.
Yeah, I mean, just to add on to what Mitraji was saying, we don't even have to go far to look for Justin Trudeau's hypocrisy. He was vehemently opposed, and he still is vehemently opposed to any talk of secessionism from Quebec. And Quebec has been going through secessionist talks for a very long time.
Even from his father's
This whole
time.
notion of secessionism is kind of a sideshow for those of us who live and breathe in the United States and Canada. 13 states in the United States have constantly come up and said, oh, we're going to leave the country. There are cities that have said, we're going to leave the state, and so on and so forth. We kind of look at it as kind of a sideshow a little bit. But it is unfortunate that Canadian citizens, presumably those who are voting in this referendum, are presumably either Canadian PRs or probably even Canadian citizens. I wonder how they would react if the government of India took them up on their offer and said, okay, you guys want to leave India, fine, your passport's cancelled, goodbye. I don't know how they would react to that. This whole notion of secessionism and a quick exit every time you have some kind of a difficulty with the government is just silly.
Yeah.
The other very interesting thing is, if you look at a map of Khalistan that is being produced, it is entirely within the borders of current India.
Yeah.
Now, Punjab,
Yes.
of course, was divided in two by partition.
Yes.
There's a significant portion of Punjab
No, and
that is
that's where
still
the
inside
hypocrisy is.
Pakistan.
In fact, I remember when they tried to peddle this narrative, I called Pannu when he ran away at that time. I said, where is the Khalistan if you're not asking for anything from Pakistan? Ask for all of that first. I have to wind up. We'll take this forward. We'll take this forward for the moment. I thank all our guests. Have run over time. Thank you for your time. Stay with us. Brass Tacks follows.
Good evening, this is Brass Tacks. I'm Zakir Jacob. The Supreme Court today upheld by 3-2 majority the centre's decision to have 10% quota for economically weaker sections. The majority judgment ruled that this was in keeping with the basic structure of the Constitution and there is nothing wrong in reservations based on economic factors. The opposition, though, is arguing that this is laying the ground for economic reservations for forward castes, and that is not what the Founding Fathers had in mind when it comes to affirmative action. Will this open a can of worms as far as changing the very definition or the intention of reservation is concerned? Who should have a problem with poor folks, whether they are from the general category or OBCs or SCs, if poor folks are given a leg up, whether it is in government jobs or in education? But first, the story of a significant judgment today, which by majority the Supreme Court upheld.
It's a big win for the Modi government. 3 out of 2 judges in a Supreme Court bench upheld 10% reservation in jobs and education given to the economically weaker sections since 2019. Justice Maheshwari said reservation singularly on economic background does not violate any essential feature of the Constitution. Justice Trivedi said exclusion of SCs and STs from such reservation is not unreasonable. Justice Pardiwala said it's necessary to take into review the manner of identification and ways of determining backward classes. But the dissenting judgment came from outgoing Chief Justice of India, UU Lalit, and Justice Bhatt, who said it violates the non-discrimination and non-exclusionary facet of the Equality Code.
यह सरकार गरीबों को, पीड़ितों को समर्पित है। तो गरीब व्यक्ति कोई भी हो, किसी भी जाति धर्म का हो, और वो पीड़ित है तो उसके प्रति एक संवेदना का भाव रखना चाहिए।
The EWS quota was introduced through the 103rd Constitutional Amendment and cleared by the centre in 2019. Most opposition parties didn't oppose it.
It is victory for Parliament because this amendment is passed unanimously. Nobody opposed it. Poor people in upper caste also should get reservation, and that has been upheld. We welcome it.
I'm happy at this development. It's a step forward in bringing social and economic equality in the country.
The quota bypassed affirmative action that benefits traditionally marginalized communities like the SC, ST and OBC. Questions were also raised on how the quota can cross the 50% cap on reservation set by the Supreme Court in 1992.
Mindset of the Supreme Court that the biased mindset, whenever it comes to the SC, ST, OBC, they have a different yardstick, and when it comes to the general category, has a different stand.
They have not, collected data in a scientific manner. They have got a random sampling done, gives an unguided power, untrammeled power to say that such of those persons are economically weaker section. The Constitution doesn't define who are all economically weaker section. So that criteria is also not given.
Today's judgment does not touch the reservation of SC, ST and OBCs. But by allowing reservation based on economic status, has it opened a Pandora's box?
All right, on the talking point this evening, Syed Zafar Islam is national spokesperson of the BJP, Arshpreet Singh Karyal is spokesperson of the Congress Party, Salem Dharanidharan is spokesperson of the DMK, KK Manan is a senior advocate with the Supreme Court. But let me start with Arshpreet Singh Karyal. The point that's being said by the Supreme Court in a 3-2 majority judgment is that economic factors-based reservation for economically weaker sections does not violate the basic structure of the Constitution. And just because the forefathers did not at that point envision reservation by economic means, that doesn't mean that that cannot be introduced. By 3-2 majority, the court has said that there is nothing violative of the basic structure, that economically weaker sections deserve a leg up, and that's why this provision stays.
Yes, it was Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, Mr. Narasimha Rao and Mr. Manmohan Singh who had paved the way for this and had laid down the groundwork. Now, number one, on 6th of September 1990, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi was the then PM. He had first argued that in the economic criterion, he argued for the inclusion of the economic criterion in reservation. After that, on 25th of September 1991, Narasimha Rao ji said that he rather made a provision for 10% reservation of the economically backward sections, and the memo was declared unconstitutional by the Honorable Supreme Court, citing the Indira Sane judgment. Number three, 12 years after that, Mr. Manmohan Singh, he made a commission, the Sino Commission, which was also reconstituted on the 10th of July 2006, that the BJP has referred to in order to defend the economic criterion. And number four,
No, but Arshpreet, every time the issue of a reservation for poor folks, economically weaker folks within forward caste, the general category used to come, the Congress has always taken a position that is opposed to it. The reservation should only be based on social backwardness.
No, not at all. I am giving you facts. I'm giving you dates also. I'm giving you facts with regards to it. Number one, the argument.
Why then did the UPA not bring this amendment to the Constitution? You were in power for 10 years. Why didn't you bring any form of reservation for economically weaker sections?
When we made a provision for the inclusion of 10% of when we made a provision for 10% reservation for the EWS, it was struck down by the Honorable Supreme Court, citing the Indira Sane judgment, 25th of September 1991. Please
so that is exactly what I'm asking you, Arshpreet. Why then did not you, when you were in power between 2004 and 2014, why did you not make an attempt to bring such an amendment again? The struck down that you're talking about was in the 1990s. I'm asking you, what did you do between 2004 and 14? And again, I'm putting facts on the table. The Congress has always been opposed to economic reservations, saying that reservation should solely be based on social backwardness or community backwardness.
Now, that is factually incorrect. Please check our manifesto of 2014. In 2014, the Lok Sabha manifesto, the Congress party categorically said that if we come into power, we will bring economically weaker sections reservation and we'll make sure that it's implemented as soon as possible. And number 4, like I said, the Bharatiya Janata Party has double standards. They say we are all about, serving the poor people. However, the EWS flats in Kalkaji, everybody knows it for a fact that the Congress government brought it, planned it. It started in 2013, 3,024 flats, but the Bharatiya Janata Party delayed it by 6 long years. And due to that, there's been a cost escalation by 68%.
No, look, the flats is a separate matter. Let's stick to the issue of today. The issue of today is EWS quotas being upheld by the Supreme Court of India. Let me go to Zafar Islam, please. One second. Ashpreet, one second. I'm moving away from you. I'm going to Zafar. Moving away from Ashpreet, going to Zafar. Zafar, the question. Only Zafar on screen, please. The question that's being asked by opposition parties, although Ashpreet is not saying that, but other opposition parties, RJD, Samajwadi Party, DMK, etc., is the forefathers of India, the writers of our constitution, never envisioned quotas basis economic criteria. You are now opening a Pandora's box. They're saying that this is simply a backdoor reservation for forward castes who are poor.
See, first of all, I heard the Congress spokesperson, Zaka. He was contradicting his own statement. He was giving history of 70 years of Congress rule in India, but Congress lacked conviction in a concept which is talking about that this was the Congress concept, and they were implemented it. So that only suggests that they were anti this reservation for economically weaker section of the society. We in 2014 envisaged that, understood the dynamics, and today we have delivered it. We have delivered it in 2019, but today Supreme Court has put its stamp that it is constitutional validity, and also this will also ensure that the poorer section of the forward caste will be benefited immensely from this.
Zafar, I have two questions.
Our government in
Zafar.
2019.
One is, today it's restricted to 10%. Yeah. Tomorrow, what's the guarantee that that 10% will not become 15% or that 15% will not become 20%? How much reservation will we have in this country? That's number one. Number two, you've restricted this today to economically weaker sections within forward castes. Tomorrow, somebody will turn around and say economically weaker section, so you should give to Muslims also. Why not?
See, this 10% includes Muslim also. First of all, you must understand that it is for the citizen, it is for the weaker section of the society, and it includes every caste, creed and religion. Third thing which is important for you to understand that what is our objective? What is the objective of our government? What is the objective of the Honorable Prime Minister? He has time and again stated that he wants to empower the common man on the street. He wants to empower the poorer section of the society, and this is a move which has empowered the poorer section of the forward caste, because there is no safety net available for them. And today the Honorable Prime Minister has delivered to their expectation, because his objective is to ensure that every citizen of this great country is empowered.
Let me go to Selam Dharanidharan of the DMK. Selam Dharanidharan, the reservation status in India as of right now, scheduled caste 15%, scheduled tribes 7.5%, OBCs 27%, and now with EWS quota amongst general castes, it's 10%. So the overall reservation goes up to 59.5% in most states. Of course, in the state that you come from, it's at 69%. But the question that's being asked is, this 10% does not disrupt in any way either the scheduled caste reservation or the scheduled tribe reservation or the OBC reservation. Why then are parties like yours opposed to it?
Thank you, Zaka. I would like to make 4 observations. Before that, I'd like to clarify my party stand. So, from the days of Justice Party, the precursor to DMK, we've been for equity and equality. The first, any form of affirmative action was introduced by Justice Party in its manifesto in 1921. Subsequently, after India got independence in the 1950s, only because of DMK, the amendments with regards to affirmative action was brought about. The reason why we believe that any form of affirmative action should be based on social deprivation and not based on economic status is because economic status is transient or ephemeral, but social status is permanent. If you look, right, the traditional caste-based reservations were offered to negate social cleavages that has resulted because of 1,000 years of social injustice. right? These groups are not just socially backward, but are also economically backward. So the previously existing reservation was to undo social inequality. So if that is the case, so why not include these groups or also into the economically weaker section? See, Honorable Justice Ravindra Bhatt said the same thing. The most economically disadvantaged groups are the OBCs and SCs and STs. So how do you leave them from the EWS? You may ask, they have reservation as per OBC, SC, STs, but that is only for social deprivation, not for economic deprivation. And that's why we say that this EWS is travesty to equality principle. And also, how do you calculate 8 lakhs as a threshold? That is laughable, because 98.5% of the general population, Indian population, earn lesser than the EWS threshold. In fact, a beautiful article had come out in the Hindu by a Boston professor, an Ashoka University professor, which clearly says it's only because of how the reservation is filled, right? The sequence, only because of that EWS is making some form of impact, otherwise it's just same as a general pool.
No,
so,
but Dharmendra,
again, as our advocate, senior advocate leader.
No, one second. You do know, and
yeah,
I
sure.
think you conflated two different things. You are saying that you know, why not extend economic criteria to existing reservations, whether it is for OBCs or SC, STs, and that you also went on to say that most of them are both socially and economically backward. Now, you do know that in OBCs there is something called a creamy layer. Those who earn above a certain amount are excluded from the OBC reservation because they happen to be creamy layer. So answer me two questions. Number one, this hypothesis that everybody who has socially been deprived is also economically deprived is wrong, because otherwise you won't have a creamy layer. And two, if you can use economic criteria to exclude OBCs who are in the creamy layer, why can't you use economic criteria to give to those who deserve it the most, who are economically weaker?
Yeah, see, even when creamy layer was introduced in OBC reservation, DMK vehemently opposed it, because we clearly said any form of affirmative action cannot be based on the money they make. If you look at research also from the US, the Afro-Americans, you can look at the income. But even if you look at the income may vary, like even if you go to households that make more than $80,000 or $90,000, but amount of people in top level jobs being justices in Supreme Court or High Court, the equivalent in the US, or going to Harvard or Stanford, is abysmally low compared to someone who's born white. And this is also proven in India. If you look at the 67 union ministries in India, 66 belong to the two topmost castes. So economic deprivation is completely different from social deprivation. So I made the demarcation very clear. So the first demarcation is you can't be confused, and second, even if you want to introduce EWS in spite of that, then you should have to include first the OBCs, SCs and STs, and thirdly, even if you want to do it, that threshold money is absolutely wrong.
Okay, I'll leave the threshold money part, because that's a calculation that is
based on NSS survey from 2004.
Let me ask KK Manan on both of those points, which the DMK spokesperson said, that our founding fathers never envisioned reservation to be based on economic criteria. Does this open a Pandora's box? And B, that this is simply reservation for forward caste through the back door? Mr. Manan.
I welcome this judgment, and at least after 75 years of the independence, a Prime Minister has come who has given thought towards the forward or the high caste people. Let me tell you, go to Bihar, UP, Punjab, Haryana, in every village, Brahmin, Rajput, high caste, I will say, I'll note the name of the religion, caste and creed. How the people are poor, they are unable to serve their children 2 times even food. You see why they are being deprived for the last 75 years? Number one. Number two, I think the perception is being created by some political parties that this 10% quota is affecting SC, ST or the backward. No, not at all. Their reservations is intact as per this judgment, and in fact I feel it, and I felt it also, that this judgment should have been a unanimous judgment. However, a majority judgment is there, so it will prevail upon.
No, but
Mr. At the same time, I'll request all the political party people, please just a minute, political people, please, for God's sake, Don't divide. Still, you have seen, because I remember the Mandal days. Mandal days. One Prime Minister came only for 9 months, and he, how this society, he divided at that time on a Mandal. But anyway, when this Mandal Commission was there, this commission, this and that, it will be formed every time, but no result is there. But at least somebody has come. He is not from the high caste. So I congratulate him. I pray for his good health, long life.
No, Mr. Manan, Mr. Manan, please argue. Please argue on a legal point. I'm asking you a very specific legal question.
Given a thought,
ma'am, sir, a very specific legal question. The Indira Sahni judgment of 1992. The reason why it had a cap of 50% on reservations was that it goes against the idea of merit. You have 50% for reservation for socially deprived categories, and then 50% should be on merit. If today a majority, this is close to 60%, is going to be on reservation, then the idea of merit is getting negated in this country.
Now, may I answer this?
Yeah.
Now see, every time, now this is the judgment. Every judge has its own mind, set and mind. At that time, I can give you an example. Same parties, same council, same bench. Before lunch, the judgment was different than the after lunch judgment. Because at the time of delivering the judgment, if the judge is open, if he can deliver a judgment, even he can differ his own view. He can differ it. So their view now for 60%, 50% quota, whatever it is, now their mind, judicial mind, worked that at least 10% should be given to the high caste. What is harm? So it is not illegality. There is, in the eyes of law, and so far as 50% nowadays, 60% tomorrow, as you said rightly, it may go 15% tomorrow, but depends on the judgment and the judges.
No, so where does someone draw the line? Today it's 60%, tomorrow it could be 65%, it could be 70%. If 3/4 of seats for educational institutions and jobs are going to be assigned for socially backward sections, socially deprived sections, then merit in this country is only for the remaining 25%. Merit in this country is only there for the remaining 30%.
Please remember.
No, let me go
Sir, please remind. I am reminding you that till what stage? For 15 years, 20 years, till what time this SC/ST quota was there? Why it has not been removed? You see that PD dar PD, back to back, and you see that if me is the IAS officer, my son will be IAS officer if I am SC/ST or backward. Even my father was IAS officer. We are getting, now we are not poor, but still we are not leaving the quota. Those people should have left the quota for the poor people.
So let me then go back.
That it was a socially and economically.
Let me then go back to Arshpreet Karyal, and the point that I think Selam Dharnidharan also made is, if you can have a creamy layer as a economic criteria to exclude people from reservation, and so you should, because ultimately the point of a reservation is to create a level playing field. I do not believe that people who earn less than 8 lakh rupees have the same playing field as those who earn 50 lakh rupees or 60 lakh rupees, even if you are from a disprivileged background. The fact of the matter is, if you can use economic criteria to exclude people from reservation, then surely you can use economic criteria to include people in reservation because they are earning less than 8 lakh rupees a year.
Well, definitely, I think the Bharatiya Janata Party is in the government, and they should definitely, consider this, because the Bharatiya Janata Party till date, their stand before 2019, their stand was entirely different. And as a matter of fact, there was a reply to a question on the 1st of December 2019 in the Rajya Sabha, where the Social Justice Ministry categorically said that there was no census or survey done, on the EWS. And in order to defend the economic criteria, let me quote again that they have referred to our Sino Commission that was constituted under the UPA regime. Zaka, you questioned us, what did you do after 1990? It was us who brought the Sino Commission. It was us, that made sure that this commission could be utilized for the EWS, and the Bharatiya Janata Party has referred to that. And number two, another thing.
No, see, no spokesperson, no expert on this panel is willing to address the elephant in the room, and that is... One second. Today 60% reservation is there in this country, which means 6 out of 10 people who are getting a government job are coming through reservation. Only 40% is there through merit. Tomorrow, any party can make that 65% or 70%. No, that's the whole problem. Zafar Islam, your party for number of years had been railing and ranting against, the dilution of merit. You please tell me, can you give a guarantee that 60% will not become 65 or 65 will not become 70? Where is the room for merit, Zafar Islam?
Jaka, you've already asked.
No, once again, I'm asking Zafar Islam. I'm not asking you that. I'm asking Zafar Islam. Ashpreet, yield. Yeah, Zafar.
Zaka, same question will be posed by the economically weaker section, people who comes from that section of the society, that who will look after their concern. It is the responsibility of the government to initiate some affirmative action. This happens to be one of them, to ensure that their interest is also safeguarded in the country where they live. So, if your question is that whether it will exceed beyond 10%, my answer is no. It has been thought through, and the 10%, whether it's a Sino commission or whatever commission he is referring to, I think if the commission report was delivered at that point in time, then they should have implemented it. But they had no conviction. They always had a commission to project something, not with intention to deliver it, but only to mislead the people. Here, we have promised it. Our job was to ensure that every section of the society and their concern is being addressed, and the Honorable Prime Minister has done in a manner that neither SC/ST nor any other reservation which was already in place.
That is the whole point, Zafar.
But that if you over and above this reservation is 10%.
Zafar, if you wanted to introduce economically weaker sections reservation, and nobody has a problem with that, like I said, the whole idea of reservation is to create a level playing field, and the poorest of poor in this country absolutely deserve it. My only point is, then you should have introduced it for SC/STs as well as for OBCs and kept it within the 50% limit, because the other 50% are then turning around and saying, what value does merit have in this country? Because if 60% is gone through reservation, only 40% is left for merit.
No, this was debated in the parliament, and you heard Mr. Khadge just now, how welcoming he was. Every party supported it, and there was absolutely no party who had objected to this proposal. So it was supported by each and every party that 10% support as reservation should be made for EWS category, and that is why the government had proposed, and it was accepted by not only by or supported by not only the ruling MPs of the ruling party, but across all the opposition parties. There was absolutely nobody who was
Salem Dhanidharan made this point about how comparing socially disadvantaged groups here in India, comparing them to blacks in the United States. But you will also remember that affirmative action in the United States, again, is basis and economic criteria. It is not for social deprivation. If you're a third generation black, wealthy, went to good schools and so on, you don't get affirmative action in colleges in the United States. Affirmative action is again basis those people who have been worse off economically, who cannot afford to go to college or pay exorbitant college fees. You create a level playing field for them. That's the whole principle.
Can I add on?
Yeah, Salem.
No. See, the pure merit as such is utopian. You said so only the 40% is going through merit. In fact, even if you look at this book by the Harvard professor Tyranny of Merit, which says pure merit as such is an utopian concept. Even in Harvard, you have to get in. If you are from deprived black, whatever be your income level, you are given much more preference than the white. Having said that, this 10% EWS quota is an electoral gimmick, because 98.5% of the population earn less than 8 lakhs. If you earn 6 to 8 lakhs, you are upper middle class. 2 to 6 lakhs, you are middle class. And then from 40,000 to 2 lakhs, you are lower middle class. And 40% of the population which earns less than $1 a day, right? That is about 40,000 a year. So what are you going to do for them? So if you really want to uplift the poor, then come follow the Dravidian model, where we give reservations in need for government school students. Who go to government school? People who are really economically deprived. Also the other problem, so let's say, as I said, economic status is ephemeral. Someone would be making 6 lakhs 2 years back and now make 20 lakhs. So this situation changes. Or someone's elder brother might be working in the US or the Middle East making 1 crore, but since he's a permanent citizen there, that is not taken into account here. So these are the issues. So this is a simple electoral gimmick, if you ask me.
Okay, I'm going to wrap it up at that. We'll thank all the guests, Salem Dharanidharan, Zafar Islam, Ashpreet Kadyal and Mr. Manan for joining us. But let's be very, very clear. No one has a problem against giving reservation for economically weaker sections. Absolutely. If anybody has due say over the resources of this country, it should be the poor. Absolutely no problem with that. The issue is, how far will you go? The ceiling was 50%. It was by a constitutional bench of the Supreme Court in 1992, the Indira Sahni judgment. People thought that 50% will not be breached. Today it's been breached. It's gone up to 60% now. Tomorrow, there is no guarantee that 60% could not be 65 or 65 could not become 70. So then, what does that put paid to the idea of merit in this country? I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back on the other side, the anti-hijab movement is now spreading from Iran to India. A group of young women taking out a protest in Kozhikode in Kerala. Let's have details of that story and a lot more when we come back right on the other side.
There's been an increase in farm fires date on date till the end of October in Punjab versus last year. Why is there no credible action that the government can today put, even though before coming to power in Punjab, the Aam Aadmi Party had all solutions for parali burning?
There were others who got organized far more, built a narrative against this community, which so far is docile, so far is non-challenging, it's contributing to the economy, and it is also paying out huge amounts of donations to local politicians without expecting anything back in return from them.
Again, in the 2015 rains when it happened, this was the same argument. The rains were unprecedented. We are going to get more rain in briefer intervals of time. That is a reality we have to live with. What are governments doing on the ground in terms of preparation work for that? That's the question to be answered.
How could a private firm throw open a bridge on its own? Surely there was enough time for the local administration to act and shut down the bridge. So what really happened?
നിയമപരമായിട്ടും ഭരണഘടനാപരമായിട്ടും നമുക്ക് ഫലപ്രദമായി എങ്ങനെ പ്രതിരോധിക്കാമെന്ന കാര്യം പാർട്ടി കൃത്യമായിട്ട് ചർച്ച ചെയ്ത് തീരുമാനത്തിലെത്തിയിട്ടുള്ളതാണ്. ഏതറ്റം വരെയും പോകാം. അത് പിന്നെ ഏതറ്റം വരെയും പോകാമെങ്കിൽ എന്തു ആവാം. അതാണ് സർക്കാരിന് ആവശ്യമായ നിലപാട് സ്വീകരിക്കാം. ബില്ലുകൾ തടഞ്ഞു വെച്ചിരിക്കുകയാണ്. ബില്ലുകൾ തടഞ്ഞു വെച്ചതുമായിട്ട് ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട് നിയമപരമായും ഭരണഘടനാപരമായിട്ടുള്ള പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾ എങ്ങനെയൊക്കെ കൈകാര്യം ചെയ്യണമെന്നുള്ള കാര്യം ആലോചിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്. ഗവൺമെൻറ് ആലോചിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്. ഗവർണറെ ചാൻസലർ സ്ഥാനത്ത് കേരള ഗവൺമെൻറ്റിൻ്റെ നിയമത്തിൻ്റെ അടിസ്ഥാനപ്പെടുത്തിയിട്ടാണിത് യഥാർത്ഥത്തിൽ അധികാരം കിട്ടിയിട്ടുള്ളത്. ആ അധികാരം നൽകേണ്ടതുണ്ടോ എന്ന കാര്യം ചർച്ച ചെയ്യേണ്ടുന്ന അവസ്ഥയിലേക്കാണ് കാര്യങ്ങൾ വന്ന് നിൽക്കുന്നത്. ആവശ്യമായ നിലപാട് നമുക്ക് സ്വീകരിക്കേണ്ടി വരും.
Okay, my colleague Neetu is with us right now to bring us more context. Neetu, we played out for our audiences a few minutes ago a governor's response to the media. And just seeing his anger, that kind of anger from a government official seems unprecedented. Could you bring us more context as to what's brought him to this point? What is the context to this story? And then tell us what we have to look forward to today, please.
See, the governor was quite angry today, saying that he will not speak to two regional media channels, two Malayalam channels, Kairali News and Kairali TV and Media One. He says that they are running a propaganda against them and they are comrades. media persons, and so that is a response that we saw from Kochi, from Kerala Governor Arif Mohammed Khan, quite unprecedented, and he's asking the reporters of 2 channels to get out from that space where he was about to respond. Now, looking forward today, what we have is that this is the last day of Chancellor that the Governor as Chancellor has given to the Vice Chancellors to respond. He had sent show cause notice to 11 of them, and they have time till today. So 6 of them have already responded, and we are expecting that the others is also most likely to submit their response by today. So it's after that the governor will take into consideration all this, and then he'll take a decision on this. So it was after the Supreme Court verdict on one of the vice chancellors, that is a vice chancellor of APJ Abdul Kalam Technological University. It was after that Supreme Court order which found that appointment not valid because it did not fulfill the UGC guidelines. So based on that, the governor is saying that all these 11 vice chancellors appointments do not fulfill. So based on the Supreme Court order, he has to do that. As chancellor, it was a governor himself who had appointed all these 11 people on the recommendations from the Search and Selection Committee.
Face off between the governor, Arif Mohammed, who you can see on the left side of your screens, and the Kerala government continues. This is just one more chapter. You might remember that a little while ago, the governor had given a show cause notice to 9 university vice chancellors. 6 out of the 9 have responded. These VCs have moved the Kerala High Court last Wednesday against the show cause notice issued to them by the governor. Remember, what the governor was alleging was that the appointment process of the vice chancellors violated the University Grants Commission norms, and because of that, they must resign. Now, I want to take you through reactions to this story, then we'll connect with my reporter on the ground.
I have repeatedly said it and I'm repeating, please. Whatever you want to do, first do it, then I will say. I have said I consider media very important. I have always responded to media. But I am not now able to persuade myself to those who masquerade as media, but they actually are members of the cadre party. So if anybody is here, my request is please go away from here. I won't talk to anybody from Kerala. If any camera is there, I will walk away. I hope there is no Kerala here. I hope there is no.
Welcome back. Our second debate tonight. For more than 2 months now, anti-hijab protests have been raging on in Iran after the custodial death of 22-year-old Masha Amini. Now, in solidarity with the anti-hijab movement there in Iran, a bunch of women in Kerala burnt their hijabs in full public glare in Kozhikode.
Unprecedented scenes in India. Group of women who got together in Kerala's Kozhikode and set a hijab on fire. They also held posters and raised slogans in support of Mahsa Amini, the 22-year-old who died in custody of Iran's morality police for allegedly not wearing her hijab properly. Mahsa's death had sparked a wave of anger in Iran, which has been raging since September. Women marched the streets without headscarves or burnt them in protest. Some young protesters have even been knocking off or forcefully removing turbans worn by clerics. Extraordinary scenes have been unfolding in Iran against the regime and religious establishment. And now this anger is spreading to India, where hijab has been a hot topic for nearly a year now. Last year, a group of Muslim students in Udupi were banned from entering their classroom wearing the hijab, triggering massive protests. Then in March, the Karnataka High Court upheld the ban on hijab, saying it's not essential to Islam. What followed was a long-drawn legal battle which only took a new turn after the Supreme Court delivered a split verdict on petitions challenging the hijab ban. But at a time when women are demanding not to wear the hijab, can individual choice override institutional autonomy?
All right, let me now open this up to our full panel. Zeenat Shaukat Ali is Director General of Wisdom Foundation. Barzeen Wagmar is Centre for Iranian Studies at SOAS London. Brinda Adige, social activist. Nishat Ghazala, activist. And Rahul Ishwar, author and activist, also joining us. Let me start with you, Zeenat Shaukat Ali. So for the last 2 months, women in Iran have been burning their hijabs, they've been cutting their hair, and it's been well documented across. In fact, just earlier last week, the Iranian regime decided to move against over 1,000 women for taking part in these protests and so on. Why shouldn't women in Kerala, like the example that we just cited, the women in Kozhikode who came out yesterday and burnt the hijab, why shouldn't there be more women coming out across India and across the world in support of their Iranian counterparts?
I totally agree with you, Zaka, because I think, I personally stand in solidarity with the extraordinary women of Iran in this ongoing struggle against state-imposed hijab, where women have to put, and where women have put their lives at stake. And it has been deplorable, the entire movement of killing these women, where they have been, brutalized. And, the entire thing has been very deplorable. So I think that, the women across the world must stand for the women, because hijab is a choice. It cannot be a state imposition. What the women are saying, let it be a choice. So those who wish to wear it or those who do not wish to wear it, there must be a distinction, and women must be allowed to do what they want as far as this matter is concerned. And I think I think the United Nations has so many bodies dealing with human rights, dealing with women's issues. These issues have to be taken up at a higher level, because this is 50% of God's creation almost.
No, so let me ask Brinda Adige. I know you're a feminist woman. What is the feminist argument for justifying hijab? I mean, by that token, then all the women in Iran who are burning the hijab should be anti-feminist. I mean, it's a regressive concept. It's a concept that I'm sure was invented by a man for women to follow. How do you justify a regressive practice like the hijab? And why not extend solidarity to the women in Iran who are burning the hijab?
Yes,
Brinda Adige, thank you. Yeah.
Sorry, okay.
Yes, Zaka. Hijab and parda and all of these other customs that subjugate, oppress women are patriarchal and man-made. And you also must understand that this patriarchal customs, traditions have been internalized, and women have been conditioned to accept this. But where is that choice that we have made available for women? When you talk of a feminist point, that choice is not just a feminist point. It is a human rights point. It's an issue of freedom and liberty that every woman must feel that she enjoys without any other repercussions, either from her family or from her community, also from the country itself. And like Shaukat Ali put it very beautifully, state-imposed necessities or state-imposed diktat of wearing something or not wearing something is unacceptable. And we have to really kudos to the women in Kerala, Kozhikode, where they are burning the hijab. They have made a choice. They decide that is what they want to do to show solidarity to women in Iran. And they want to talk about burning the hijab as a sign of liberty
you
and
say
freedom.
state-imposed choices.
Once
again, you're saying state-imposed choices. And I want to ask Rahul Ishwar this. Yes, any imposition by anyone, whether it is state or any other individual, it's absolutely unacceptable in a democracy. But we are then construing that 15, 16, 17-year-old girls, and this is essentially in schools and pre-degree colleges across Karnataka, where this whole hijab matter really came to a fore. They are being totally uninfluenced, Rahul Ishwar, by their family? I mean, are you seriously telling me these young girls are not influenced by their families or not forced by their families to wear the hijab? That is also imposition.
Sakaji, three submissions. One, let us not pretend that this is a simple issue. This is a very complex, multi-layered issue. First, beyond religion, beyond politics, everyone in the world should stand with Mahasi Amini, who unfortunately died. She was only 22. She was subjected to morality police and their death. It is absolutely horrible, horrifying, and we should stand together. Second, I am a proud Hindu, religious conservative myself. I respect my fellow Muslim conservatives. At the same point of time, I would always urge them, if we are being over-conservative, if we are being over-orthodox, it will backfire big time. The third point, see, any kind of protest is definitely welcome. But please remember the position of Mahatma Gandhi, our father of the nation, who in 1947, Fatehpur Sikri said, Holy Quran only mentions modesty. It doesn't mention any particular dress code. It only mentions, modesty for both male and female, and not any dress code. So it's a multi-layered issue. On one level, it is ethical issue. On one level, it is identity assertion. On some levels, it is politics. On some level, it is human rights. So it's a very complex issue. But let us don't forget one thing, because any person has a right to wear anything in India, and we should, or anywhere around the world, and we should respect that. Any kind of imposition, either by the family or by the state, should definitely be discouraged. But at the same point of time, when you are burning or when you are having such a confrontational attitude, it may backfire big time too. So you have to win the hearts and minds of the people. If you believe in reform, we have to take them forward slowly. Burning or confrontational attitude will only backfire, and especially Muslim community may not be receptive to such a thing.
No, I want to ask Nishat Ghazala, and then I'll go to Barzin Wagmar after that. Nishat Ghazala, the fact remains that the Karnataka High Court ruled that hijab is not an essential religious practice. In the Supreme Court, it was a split verdict. In fact, the Muslim side is not even arguing for ERP, hijab as part of ERP in the Supreme Court. If it is not an essential religious practice, and this whole freedom of choice argument, like I said, you can't say, state is imposing on the one side, but family is not imposing. That's a false equivalence that's being brought forth. So if the freedom of choice argument is also being busted, my simple submission and my simple question to you is, how can any progressive feminist woman agree that a regressive patriarchal construct, or justify a regressive patriarchal construct by using the freedom of choice argument?
All right. Yeah. Thank you. Well, as far as I am an example, I've been wearing a headscarf, and right now I am able to perform all my duties. However, a question was raised regards to the modesty as well. So in Islam, it's clearly mentioned for a woman, hijab is her modesty. And according to the Indian law also, as we have a freedom right of wearing our dress codes or whatever we wanted to perform, either it's a task or we are free to do whatever we require to. Means we are free to practice a religion as well. So coming a question at why a woman cannot wear hijab, or how can a hijab influence her task or her career, or it can be distraction for the other people, I am not at all agree to this point, because I've been an example. I have seen many of the people who are working with me, they did not even realize that it's a distraction for them. Either I am wearing a hijab.
No, I think you're missing the argument. The argument here simply is you are free to wear the hijab or any other costume as long as you're an adult and you have freedom to choose what you want to wear in any part of public sphere, except in an institution where there is a prescribed uniform. Tomorrow, if you are one second. Tomorrow, if you are selected, let's say, to the Indian Army, or you're selected as a fighter pilot, you cannot say that I will enter the cockpit only wearing a hijab, or I will take part in the march past only wearing a hijab. I mean, where in an institution where there is a prescribed uniform, in this case schools and degree colleges, you follow the uniform.
All right, yeah. As for the uniform code is maintained. Wearing a scarf is not distracting or not, spoiling the uniform.
No, nobody is arguing whether it's distracting or spoiling. It's a question of if it is a uniform, it is uniform. It applies to all individuals who are part of that institution. You can't have certain individuals deciding, okay, we have to wear scarves because our religion prescribes it, whereas for the rest of the institution, you're following the uniform. That doesn't work.
True.
No, as far as what my understanding is, wearing a headscarf does not impact anything regards to the uniform or dress code.
No,
this should be considered, because India is a multi-secular country wherein we can see many religion coming together. They do have their own practices, which we also see.
No, but
there
those
are
religious practices are
celebrations
not happening inside the four walls of a school or inside the four walls of a college.
talking
You're
about the
free
school.
to
Yeah,
undertake
school.
whatever religious practice you want at your home or in a temple or wherever in public sphere, but not inside the four walls of a school. But anyway, I want to go to
Correct.
Barzeen
Yeah.
Wagmar.
Okay,
One second. Let me go to Barzeen Wagmar, who's been waiting patiently. The point is, all around the world, Barzeen, over the last couple of months, including here in India, women have come out in student solidarity with the women who are protesting in Iran. And yet, what we are seeing from the regime there is, I think last week they acted against 1,000 women who had taken part in these different protests, basically bringing on this chilling effect that if you were to dare to take on the Ayatollahs, then this is the price to pay.
That is the price, I'm afraid, which Iranians are paying in blood. As I speak, about 300 Iranians have been killed and 14,160 have been imprisoned. And their parents don't know what's happened to these youth in question. Picking up the strands of what has been discussed today, let me also say 2 months on, Mr. Jacob, the stunning, deplorable silence of Western feminists who are primarily leftists, who do not want to talk about something like Iran, but are more than happy to bang on about America or the West and so-called imperialist iniquities. Because the left has come to this insidious agenda that any discussion or any omissions or commissions of the Middle East or the Muslim world, including Muslim patriarchy that is being discussed here, engendered Muslim patriarchy, ought not be discussed or dilated upon, lest one engenders Islamophobia, which is of course arrant nonsense. But that is what has come to be the mainstay in warped leftist thinking. Feminists, but also leftists of both genders across the spectrum, across at least sitting here in the West, who will always give a wide berth to Iran and to other regimes because somehow they are anti-Western, and that therefore dovetails with their warped worldview of anti-imperialism and anti-Americanism and the like. Your Indian gentleman made a very perceptive point. You see, what has happened in Kerala today is extremely encouraging, but it will not go unnoticed in Tehran, Ms. Jacob, and I'll tell you this. Iran, and as a police state, is used to having demonstrations outside embassies and the like, and they can turn on and turn off the public temper of the street. They've always done that with their paid-up hoodlums and thugs. And they did this after Article 370's rescission also, if you remember, in 2019. And Khamenei is on record making remarks about Kashmir's accession to India and Kashmir's belonging to India even before Article 370.
Okay.
So they will no doubt try and find a sore point with the Indians and try to encourage and stoke aspects on that. Which is not to say that protests and honorable protests of this sort should not take place in Kerala. But that gentleman of yours in India who made that point, the South Indian gentleman, I wanted to back up on what he says, because it will not go unnoticed in Iran, and they will immediately pick up and play on it.
No, so I want to ask Brinda Adige, one of the points that Barzan made.
That's the modus operandi of a police state regime, which of course Iran has always been.
I think one of the
since
points that Barzan
1979.
made is absolutely valid, that when you take on a regressive, patriarchal construct like the hijab, then suddenly there is this cabal of people who rush in to say, oh, this is Islamophobic. I mean, this would have been anti-feminist even in Hinduism or in Christianity. I mean, what is anti-feminist should be condemned by feminists across the world, Brinda.
Zaka, if the woman chooses to wear a hijab, whether it is because of her religion or custom or whatever, let her wear it. It is her choice. You spoke about a uniform. Why does that school want to have a uniform with salwar kameez and dupatta? Why not skirt and blouse? Why not pant and shirt? Why not a pinafore? Why not a kaftan? The school chose you must wear salwar kameez with dupatta. So what is that regressive? Is that not a regressive practice? So let's ask this question. If that dupatta is worn on the shoulder or around your head and face, how does it harm any other student in the school? You decide that she cannot make a choice how she wants to wear the dupatta. She
No, no,
can
no.
call it a hijab.
No, no,
She
no,
can
no.
call it whatever
One
you
second,
want,
one
she
second,
wants,
one second.
and
No,
I
no,
will call it
Brinda,
what I want.
Brinda.
Why
No,
is
the
the
issue,
choice
the
not
issue,
given
the
to that
issue is,
woman?
That's not
the issue is not as simple as where you're wearing the dupatta. Where are you wearing it over your head? Are you wearing it over your neck? That's not the issue. Let's be very, very clear. The reason why that dupatta is being worn over the head is for a religious reason, not for not for educational purposes.
Why is the dupatta there at all? It doesn't add to the education anyway.
No, no. So that way you can argue why have uniforms at all? Let's not have uniforms.
Yes,
How does uniform
why have
contribute?
uniforms?
How does uniform contribute to education? The issue is
Feminism
not
is
that.
allowing
The
that
issue is
woman
not that.
to make
Brinda,
her
Brinda,
choice
one
to
second,
wear
Brinda.
what she wants.
I think we are confusing the issue. The issue is if you have an institution, in this case a school or a degree college, and that institution has certain rules. If you want to be part of that institution, if you want to be a member of that institution, you have to follow the rules of that institution. Otherwise, you're free to be not part of that institution. Nobody is stopping you. You can very well not enroll in those schools which have prescribed uniforms. Absolutely.
This is
But
a government institution that has no such restriction
if there are,
until that MLA came
no,
in and decided that
in this case,
this
if
is
there are
Islamophobe,
prescribed,
this is
if there are
Islam, this is
prescribed
religious,
uniforms
not
in an institution, then every member of that institution has to follow that prescribed uniform. Again, I'm coming back to the question that I asked you, and I'll get Rahul Ishwar also to weigh in. Rahul Ishwar, you heard Barzain saying that this will not go unnoticed in Iran. Now, the question is, in Kerala, the largest Muslim political party is the IUML. I have not heard from any leader of any consequence from the Muslim League come out in the last 2 months or in the last 1 year since this hijab controversy has been raging on in this country to come out and say that, look, the women of the community must decide. If there are some people, some women in the community who don't want to wear a hijab, we should respect that. I have not heard that from anybody from the IUML.
Saka, two submissions. One, I believe Barzin should be applauded for what he said about the double standard of the so-called woke left, who has double standards when it comes to what their political, what their regarding hijab, according to their political ideology, whether it is in West or in India. That's a brilliant point. Second, as you rightly said, it's a very tricky issue down Kerala. We have 27% of our Muslim brothers and sisters here. A prominent Muslim organization called MES, Muslim Educational Society, led by Dr. Fasal Ghafoor, has banned the use of hijab or completely wearing parda in their institutions. There are multiple shades of opinion. IUML, which is a very respectable organization led by the Honorable Tangal family, is treading a very cautious approach into it. But the larger point is, if we want to push reform, if we want to inspire reform, we have to inspire it in an inclusive way. Like Bursin earlier said, like I earlier pointed out, any provocative thing only will backfire. We all know what happened to Mahseen is absolutely horrendous. We as humanity, beyond religion, nationality and politics, should feel ashamed. So we should have a gentle way of shaking the world. Like Gandhiji said, if you can gently shake the world can really move. So that gentle shaking is what is needed. Over confrontation will only backfire. It will empower the Islamists. It will empower and encourage and energize the hardliners. So in that gentle way, I hope our Muslim sisters can shake the world and the world will listen to them.
No, so let me ask Zeenat Shaukat Ali. I mean, again, why is this argument always put forth about Islamophobia? Because no one is stopping women from wearing the hijab either in public transport or in public spheres, in malls, parks, beaches, etc. It's only when you're within the four walls of an institution which has a prescribed uniform that you have to follow that uniform. So the idea or this argument of Islamophobia simply does not cut.
Absolutely correct. And I support that. As a matter of fact, when the High Court judgment said that there should be no form of religious symbolism, this entire thing comes because, it has been sort of accepted and brought about by the clergy that this is a religious requirement and it is you must be fulfilled in this fashion. So the whole thing is that because of this kind of mental setup and this kind of approach and attitude which even the parents adopt towards the children, I think the entire understanding is going the other way around. In India, do we, when the High Court said that we should have uniforms in the classroom, and they said with no religious symbolism, the question we have to ask, otherwise in India, are classrooms going to become the new arena for competitive communalism, because
Okay.
somebody else will say that I want to wear an orange scarf, somebody else will say I want to wear another form of expression, and this is the way that I want to express myself. So I think the uniform in the school is important for many reasons, and as very correctly pointed out, that if that school doesn't suit you, you cannot bend the institution for individuals.
Surely you can apply for another school. Anyway, but Barzan, I'll give you the final word. 30 seconds. Is this the end of this story? Because like we've been saying, for the last 2 months there have been protests across Iran and across the world. In fact, women have been coming out and supporting their Iranian colleagues. But will this story just die a natural death?
No, I do not believe this time it will. And I certainly hope it leads to a groundswell of change. Remember, Mr. Jacob, it was Iran which became a regressive society in 1979 with the Islamic Revolution, and the Middle East has been downhill since. It would be nothing if not admirable to see Iran actually unshackling itself from this unrepresentative regime imposed on its population and its people for the last 43 years, and to get rid of this mullocracy.
All right, I've got to leave it at that. I'm completely out of time. I want to thank all our guests, Barzan, Rahul Ishwar, Binda Adige, Zina Chaukat Ali, and also Nishat for joining us. I'm going to go to this piece of breaking news. This is a big one that's coming in from the United States. Twitter's new owner, Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, he's urged voters in the United States to back Republicans in the upcoming midterm polls. He has tweeted to independent-minded voters, shared power curbs the worst excesses of both parties. Therefore, I recommend voting for a Republican Congress, given that the presidency is Democratic. Is he being disingenuous for shared power? Because let's face it, Elon Musk now controls the biggest public square in the world. And for the owner of that biggest public square, which is Twitter, to take a public position, back one party over another, I'm not sure that augurs well. Let me go across to Pallavi Ghosh, who's joining us. Pallavi, so there are defendants and there are proponents here. Where is it okay for Elon Musk, as the person who is controlling the biggest public square in the world and this whole murky circumstances in which he's acquired this platform, to openly back one political party in the name of curbing the excesses of power?
It's not okay simply for the fact, he himself has been making the point that it has to be a level playing field. You cannot take sides. No one should be taking sides on any social media platform, and certainly Twitter. And in fact, Zaka, the entire idea of a blue tick which was mooted by him, is the basis behind that is simply this, that, there are going to be no favorites. Everyone will have free access to it. And therefore, someone who's traditionally been known to lean a little bit towards the Republic, and also interesting now is going to weigh out whether it's going to have ramification on the restoration of the Twitter handle of Donald Trump as well, whether this will have an impact on that. Though on record, Elon Musk has denied, saying that we're going to go case by case and only on merit. But for someone like who is stepping into a business like Twitter, which is facing a lot of turmoil, to clearly take sides in the middle of the midterm polls in US, it could have important political business ramifications as well.
All right, we'll leave it at that. This, of course, has huge political ramifications, and of course, is ongoing cleanup, as it were, in Twitter. This could have ramifications for that as well. That's a wrap. On the other side, a special edition of News Epicenter, live from Battleground, Himachal Pradesh.
हमारे देश को नरेंद्र मोदी की बहुत आवश्यकता है देश को आगे लाने के लिए
मतलब बदलेगी और सरकार रिपीट नहीं
Jairam Thakur cannot hide behind the shield of Mr. Modi. This won't work in Himachal.
BJP is going to win this election with a big margin.